All right, here we go. Welcome into our live coverage of the Major League Baseball trade deadline. I'm Chase Sr. You're watching Chat Sports no matter where you are or how you're tuned in. We appreciate all of you for being a part of our coverage. 2 hours to go until the deadline. We're going to recap all of the moves that have taken place over the last couple of days. Several moves today. And of course, as trades come in, we'll react to it live as well. Thanks to everybody for being here. We don't always talk a lot of baseball here at Chat Sports, but anytime we do, it's an absolute blast, and we're expecting today to be very informative, insightful for everybody, but also entertaining. So with that, under 2 hours to go until the deadline. Shout out your city. Let us know where you're watching from. We're coming to you from the Chat Sports studios based in Dallas, Texas, in the great United States of America. My name, Hagen, is here. Producer Coop is here as well. And Coop, I'm a Phillies fan. You're a Rangers fan. The Phillies trading for back end of the rotation starter Michael Lorenzen. He's having a career year, career high in strikeouts. And your Rangers making that big trade for Max Scherzer. And then the Mets also dealing away Justin Verlander, and just another move that's happened today.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy what's gone down here before the trade deadline. The Mets just basically selling their team. I would say the most disappointing team in baseball by far. Obviously trading Justin Verlander back to the Astros and the Rangers, getting Max Scherzer. It's really just sad to see how this Mets season is unfold. We had huge expectations for them. We thought they were going to be in the pennant race along with the Atlanta Braves, and here they are 2 hours before the deadline just selling their team away.
Yeah, and going into the year, you're looking at the NL East as being a juggernaut of a division because the Philadelphia Phillies were runner-up last year. They made it to the World Series. 2 years ago, the Atlanta Braves won it. We knew the Washington Nationals were going to be bad, but the Marlins were expected to be competitive. That's rang true. They are competing in the NL wildcard race, but the New York Mets, Steve Cohen, has to be absolutely sick right now. He's invested so much money into that team. Highest payroll, right, in all of baseball, and up to this point, they're not going to make the playoffs. And the next few weeks until the end of the regular season, that starting rotation is going to be awful. So you look at our deadline tracker here, this trade just happening about an hour or two ago as the Astros received Justin Verlander, cash considerations. The Mets getting a solid haul back, Drew Gilbert, Ryan Clifford. The problem that Mets fans have is that they traded for Scherzer. They got Ronald Acuna's brother. That was a good get. But the Astros were pretty thin in that farm system, so it's not like they were going to get a lot back for a guy in Verlander who was bad in April, but since then has been really, really good.
Yeah, Gilbert, the number one prospect on the Astros board, number 68, according to MLB.com. He was their first-round pick last year. Ryan Clifford, their 11th-round pick last season. So they got a decent haul, but yeah, like you said, the Astros farm system is kind of depleted because they've made so many trades throughout the past deadlines over the past years because they've been competing and they've been trying to get that guy to put them over the top. So it's an interesting time for the Mets for sure as we take a look at what's happened with Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander thus far. Verlander's gotten it together lately after a bad first month, and Scherzer, this is his worst season in a while.
Yeah, Justin Verlander, 6-5, a 3.15 ERA, 94 and a third innings. He was hurt to start the year, a whip just over 1. So ideally, it'd be just a tad lower, 81 strikeouts. For Scherzer, the spin rate is the lowest it's been in a while. He's given up home runs left and right. The velo is also down, 9-4 with the 4 ERA, 107 innings pitched. The K's not bad with 121, so he still has that. But that two-seam fastball that's been lethal for him that used to be in the upper 90s is sitting mid-90s right now. The location isn't the same, which is why the home run numbers are so high. The thought process here in getting Scherzer is this. You're going to get a guy who's played in a bunch of big games, obviously led that Nats rotation with Steven Strasburg a couple of years ago en route to the Nats winning the World Series. Can he be re-energized to a certain degree and have that new change of scenery where the adrenaline is pumping in the midst of a playoff race for a Rangers team that needs the rotation help? They've been struggling, too, coming off that bad series against the Padres.
Yeah, the Rangers in the month of July have the second worst ERA in baseball at over 5. And what the Rangers are hoping with that they're getting in Max Scherzer is they're getting a guy that's been there and done that in the postseason. He's a guy that thrives in high-pressure situations. Mike Maddox, the Rangers pitching coach, was with Scherzer in Washington when he had a couple of his best seasons, so they're hoping that they can get the best out of each other. And they're kind of really hoping to reinvigorate this starting rotation. Jacob deGrom obviously went down in the first month of the year with Tommy John surgery. Nate Eovaldi is also on the IL right now with forearm tightness, but it sounds like he might be out for the remainder of the season. They're kind of waiting to see on what happens there as well. So the Rangers are dealing with some injuries right now, and they went and got Max Scherzer to kind of lead them to a playoff run.
Yeah, so that's the trade there. Max Scherzer cash considerations for Luis Angel Acuna, who might not be the player that his brother Ronald is, but highly touted prospect coming up through that Rangers system. So the best player to get traded so far is who? We're going to start to give some comments here. Shout-outs to some of those comments that are in the chat right now. We have Peyton saying, let's go Cubbies. Junior Estrada, let's go Yankees. Clayton Lockhart, any moves by the Dodgers yet? Nothing of significance, but they could make a trade over the next hour and a half change. Clayton also saying, what's up, Chase? What up, Jeffrey? Clayton, so glad that you're here. Red Sox moves, Chase. We're going to go team for team really all throughout our pre-deadline coverage to go over all the marquee moves that have happened. So continue to just kick it here with us, and we'll keep you in the know. In the meantime, more shout-outs to some people here. Jack Lauderay, let's go, boys. Hope you're enjoying Florida. Rangers need Elias Diaz. I know you really like him.
They could definitely use him, especially now that Jonah Heim's going to be out for at least 2 to 3 weeks, and if he's not healed by then, he's going to have surgery that'll end his season. Obviously, the all-star starter is a catcher, so the Rangers are in the market for a catcher here. We'll see what happens in the next hour and 48 minutes.
Yeah, we have Tom Downey's burner account that's here. Peter is tuned in from Canada. Can the Orioles at least try to get better? They could be a team that makes a move on Verlander. They kind of dipped out, on a player. They did dip out of the Justin Verlander sweepstakes a few hours ago, and then that kind of paved open the opportunity for Verlander to go back to Houston. And I know Astros fans, we have plenty of them here in the office because we're based in Texas, as well as a grouping of Rangers fans as well. Astros fans very excited to get Verlander back because the rotation has struggled. It's been one of the blemishes on that roster, especially the middle portion to tail end of that rotation. They get Verlander back, who is under contract next year, then has kind of that player option the following year. Worth a lot of money, but it helps their pursuit of going back-to-back and winning another world championship. Going into today, of course, in the mix for Verlander and other starting pitchers, Yordan Alvarez and Jose Altuve recently returned from injury, so they're starting to load up the chamber and get a little bit healthier.
Starting to come back into form.
Yeah, they needed to get starting pitching, and in trading for Justin Verlander, they certainly accomplished that.
Yeah, and Framber Valdez has really struggled as well this season, so they were still looking for that front end of the rotation guy, and there's no better postseason pitcher on the market than Justin Verlander. I mean, he's done it with the Astros as well. He's a guy that's going to go into October, and he's going to give you innings, and he's going to give you clutch performances. That's just what Justin Verlander does. And the Astros obviously wanted to keep Verlander last offseason when he signed with the Mets, and they just went out and got him at the deadline instead.
Yeah, so that's the snippet there for the Houston Astros. Going to take another peek at the comment section here. Would you give up Jack Leiter, Aaron Zavala, and some minor league prospects for Diaz there, Coop?
Yes, I would. I think Jack Leiter's cooked. He's in his second year in Double-A, and he has not been any better than he was when the Rangers first got him. So he very much worries me. Zavala's a good prospect, but he's someone I would definitely be willing to give away.
My name, Hagen. Red Sox need to make the trade. Kyle Schwarber for Adam Duvall and Alex Verdugo. I don't think the Phillies are going to trade away Kyle Schwarber. He is below the Mendoza line, but he is approaching 30 home runs and has been critical to the Phillies' cultural success. Last year, certainly a clubhouse leader. Once again, doing that this year. A lot of Phillies fans somewhat fed up with Kyle Schwarber just because of the low batting average, but shockingly enough, his on-base percentage isn't all that bad when you factor in how low his batting average is. It's Philadelphia Phillies, by the way, Coop there. Phil's quietly having a pretty solid season. They started off slow, but have started to pick it up really since June 1. They've scouted Red Sox outfielder Adam Duvall. The needs for them are right-handed bat as well as pitching. they got pitching in the aforementioned Lorenzen, who is having a really good year. They've been starting Christopher Sanchez as the fifth starter in that rotation, and he's actually performed really well. He's given the Phillies a lot of opportunities to win games, but they just need a more legit pitcher who down the stretch can be a starter for them or can come out of the bullpen. He's going to be a rental final year of his contract. So let us know the best player to get traded so far, and we're going to continue to take a look at the chat here to see who's in here. GM Evan Hinders, what's good, brother? M. Sullivan, any Twins news? No, not really. DJ Shibley, are the A's going to trade for anyone? I don't think the A's are going to trade for anybody just because they're so bad. Make sure you subscribe to us here at Chat Sports. Yeah, we're talking Major League Baseball today on the day of the Major League Baseball trade deadline, but also year-round coverage of the NFL, NBA, and a whole lot more. So make sure you lock us in and hit that sub button. Jack Lauderay, that's way too much for Schwarber. No shot that the Phillies are selling. If anything, the Phillies are buying. They're going all in and trying to improve that roster, and they're right in the mix for looking to get back to the World Series, although during this stretch run, they need to be less sloppy out in the field. That series in Pittsburgh was certainly troubling. Getting Lorenzen's going to help out that rotation a lot, but the bats need to be consistent too. Nick Castellanos and Trey Turner, they have just been awful, especially over the last few weeks for Nick Castellanos since the All-Star break. He gets elected to his second All-Star game, and from that point on, he has been awful. So you go through our deadline tracker here. This is one of the bigger moves that happened. Paul DeJong going to the Toronto Blue Jays. That's a big move as the Cardinals are selling. The Blue Jays also get cash considerations, and the Cardinals receive Matt Swanson. So Paul DeJong, really solid player who goes to an emerging team in the AL East, and the AL East is wide open. The Yankees are in last place in that division for the first time since the early 1990s.
Yeah, and this obviously comes off the heels of Bo Bichette injuring his knee over the weekend. The Blue Jays were taking a look at it, and they said, hey, if he's going to be out for a certain amount of time, we're going to go get a shortstop. Well, they went and got Paul DeJong, who's one of the best shortstops on the market. He's been with the Cardinals for a long time and is very reliable bat and defender there as well. So good move for the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, update here on Bo Bichette. This coming from Caitlin McGrath. As everyone has seen by now, an MRI showed no structural damage in Bo Bichette's right knee, per manager John Schneider. Described it as best-case scenario. Bichette isn't in the lineup today, but he is day-to-day, still determining if an IL stint is needed. So that's the latest there on Bo Bichette. But either way, they're able to get another bat and another good glove in that lineup. Atlanta Braves off to a historic start this year, and they are the clear favorites to win the World Series for the second time in 3 years. Needed some starting pitching help as well as some bullpen arms. They get a bullpen arm in Brad Hand, and the Rockies receive Alec Barger. So that's a move that certainly fortifies the bullpen for Atlanta. Padres receiving Rich Hill, who continues to defy Father Time, the lefty with that unbelievable hook, headed to San Diego. They are buying. They are not selling. There was chatter a couple of weeks ago about San Diego maybe moving off of Juan Soto. Last week they said we're not trading him, and now they fortify that rotation with Rich Hill. Pirates receiving Jackson Wolf, Estuar Suarez, and Alfonso Rivas. The same can be said for the Chicago Cubs. They are now right at 500 in the thick of that NL wildcard race, playing their best baseball since that core was kind of broken up. David Ross has done a good job with that team. They get Candelario, who has the highest, I believe, on-base percentage or OPS among third basemen in the National League, and he can play the corners. He can play third. He can play first base as well. Very, very solid player who's going to be critical for Chicago both defensively and offensively. The Diamondbacks, they received Paul Sewald today. He's a closer. The Mariners getting Josh Rojas, Dominic Canzone, and Ryan Bliss. The Tampa Bay Rays making a move. Aaron Seaval, the right-handed pitcher, and the Guardians receive Kyle Mandarzo. Tampa Bay in that loaded AL East, they figure to be players in that AL playoff hunt. And then the Angels, Coop, they've made a lot of moves. They've elected to hold on to Shohei Ohtani, but they've made roster periphery moves. They brought in some marquee players. Randall Grichuk, he's a solid player. And for the Angels to get him, it goes to show you they're going all in, keeping Shohei Ohtani, just trying to compete and appease him to maybe come back and stay with Los Angeles.
Yeah, they made this move, and in addition, this was the move that really signaled that they were not going to trade Shohei Ohtani when they went out and got Lucas Giolito and Reynaldo Lopez from the White Sox. They traded their number 2 and number 3 prospects in this deal to Edgar Quero and Kai Busch, so they are all in for really the first time in the Mike Trout era. They made the playoffs one time since Mike Trout's been on the roster, which is an absolute violation. And here they are with Ohtani on an expiring contract, electing to keep him, and we'll see what happens with the Angels here in the last 2 months.
Yeah, that's a good get there with Giolito, Reynaldo Lopez, and they give up Edgar Quero and Kai Busch. Let's go to the Texas Rangers here. They've made a semblance of moves. Obviously, Max Scherzer, the big one. Jordan Montgomery and Chris Stratton, they go to Arlington, and then the Cardinals receiving Thomas Segis, Tekoa Roby, and John King. What do you think about this move for the Rangers here?
Well, they needed another starter, especially if Eovaldi's going to be out, so I love the addition of Jordan Montgomery. Chris Stratton, a decent middle-of-the-pen reliever, something the Rangers were also looking for. And in what they were giving up, Thomas Segasi, I believe is how you say it, he was never really going to play for the Rangers because Marcus Semien and Corey Seager are under contract for the foreseeable future. John King, absolute stiff of a reliever, so I'm happy that he's gone from the Rangers as well. So I think this was a pretty good move for a rental in Jordan Montgomery.
Yeah, the Rangers struggling of late, but of course still in the running in the AL playoff race. Blue Jays also making another move as the Cardinals have been really, really busy. I know that fans in baseball have been very, very disappointed by what's happened this year for St. Louis. Last year ended on a sour note as the Philadelphia Phillies knocked him out in the playoffs to send, Molina going away, as well as Albert Pujols. And this year they had sky-high expectations, but they have really just struggled all year long, and because of that, they are sellers at the deadline, just looking to get prospects back to build for the future. They traded Jordan Montgomery, Chris Stratton to the Rangers, Jordan Hicks to the Blue Jays, a couple of other moves that we just discussed as well. This is notes going into today. Cards headed for their first losing season since 2007. The big name to keep an eye on here is if they're trading everybody else, is Paul Goldschmidt going to be next?
Yeah, the 2022 NL MVP. I mean, I think Goldschmidt would be... I think a lot of teams would love to have Paul Goldschmidt on their roster, let's put it that way. I don't think they'll end up trading him. I think they'll end up holding on to him and see what they can do and retool in the offseason with Goldschmidt as the centerpiece of that. But it wouldn't be surprising if they got an offer that blew them away if they did away with Goldschmidt.
Yeah, and then you look at this pickup for the Dodgers. There was some discussions last week about Lance Lynn going to the Tampa Bay Rays. No. He's going to the Los Angeles Dodgers, an organization that does a great job of reviving pitchers. And Lance Lynn this year, he's been bad. And basically every major notable statistic, Lance Lynn has not been good. They also get Joe Kelly back, who once pitched for the Los Angeles Dodgers. And the White Sox, another one of those disappointing teams. No fans even show up to their games. Trace Thompson, Nick Nastrini, and Jordan Leisure.
Clay's brother, Trace.
Going to the White Sox. That's right. So they go to the White Sox, and the Dodgers, once again, just doing a great job of just continuing to load up as we approach the playoffs.
Yeah, it seems like every July it's something that they do, or they go out and get exactly what they need to go make a postseason run. Lance Lynn struggled this year. I believe his ERA is sitting around 6, but he's a guy that when the going gets tough, you want Lance Lynn on the mound. That's a guy who really won't back down from everyone. He really helped set the culture for the Texas Rangers in their ascent. I know he's not there anymore, but he instilled some, I guess, foundational principles in the Rangers pitching staff that they've taken with them. So, and they obviously get Joe Kelly back, who is more of a meme than anything at this point, but he's still a solid reliever.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So the Dodgers looking pretty good once again, and the Guardians also making a move with Los Angeles. Ahmed Rosario, the shortstop, he heads to L.A. in exchange for Noah Syndergaard. Obviously not the same pitcher that he once was, but he goes to a Guardians team that is also in the mix in the AL, especially in that AL Central. The Dodgers also getting back Kike Hernandez. I know that Jack Lauderay, who's on vacation right now, is in the chat. He was certainly excited about this trade here. He was looking forward to Kike Hernandez getting dealt away from Boston. Red Sox receive Nick Robertson and Justin Hagenman. So we're going to continue to run through all of the moves that have happened up to this point, and of course, as trades do transpire, we'll break them down live for our coverage of the 2023 Major League Baseball trade deadline. Will the Astros repeat? They picked up and brought back Justin Verlander today. Y for yes or N for no? Let us know in the chat.
Are they
we'll start
the
to give you
favorite?
some more shout-outs here.
It's them in Atlanta, right?
I would say Atlanta is the favorite, but because of the Astros' success last year, I think that they're going to be in the mix once again. And that's a team that you just fear in the playoffs because they're always going to have a quality pitching staff, bullpen, starting rotation now especially with Justin Verlander, and a bunch of savvy hitters in that lineup as well. So Astros certainly a team to fear. Will they repeat though? Y for yes or N for no? Game Boy saying no. Gunner no. Richard Lee asking about the Rangers. L2 Clouds, what's good, brother? Also saying no. Craig Trish going no. I think a big reason why people are saying no, it's because of the Astros dislike. That's really what it
No
comes
one likes
down
them.
to. No.
Not a soul likes them, but they're a damn good team, and they've been there in October. They're one of the favorites. It's either them or the Braves at this point in
Hey,
time.
those are just facts. You continue to go through our deadline tracker here with some of the trades that have already happened in the lead up to the Major League Baseball trade deadline. A couple of weeks ago, we were talking about this deadline as being historic. There was the possibility for Juan Soto to get traded, Shohei Ohtani to get dealt. Some of the marquee players have been taken off the board, and those respective teams have elected to keep onto those players and hold on to them. So it's watered down at least the superstar talent up to this point, but still a bevy of moves have happened so far on Major League Baseball trade deadline day. We'll see if any superstar gets dealt. Maybe it's Paul Goldschmidt. Maybe it's Nolan Arenado. I mean, the Cardinals have traded so many players already. Could they decide to really just tear that down? First losing season since 2007. Now we have 126 people watching live. Make sure you hit that thumbs up icon and you like the video. This is your home for Major League Baseball trade deadline coverage right here on Chat Sports. And we're down to have a lot of fun throughout the afternoon as well in the lead up to the deadline. If you want to send in a super chat, send in a donation. We're going to have a blast here. $5, we'll talk about your squad. $10, we actually have a beer bat here. If anybody sends us a $10 super chat, I'm going to take a sip out of the beer bat. For $20, we're going to bang the Astros trash can because they just got back Justin Verlander. If you send us in a $50 super chat, I'll put an entire beer in this bat, and I'll drink the whole thing. And for a $100 super chat, 3 beers in the beer boot. We take that down because beer and baseball are so synonymous that it hurts. You talk about Alex Verdugo here as we're going to go through some of the trade candidates. 272 batting average this year for Boston, 7 home runs, 39 RBIs. I'm not sure he's turned into the marquee player the Red Sox thought they were getting back in that deal with the Dodgers for Mookie Betts, right? But he's been a solid player nonetheless.
Yeah, he's been solid. He's one of the best prospects in baseball. I know when the Rangers traded Yu Darvish to the Dodgers, they really wanted Alex Verdugo, but the Dodgers wouldn't give him up. They ended up trading him for Mookie Betts. He's been an okay MLB player. I would say he's even been good, but he hasn't lived up to the all-star potential that he's had. I still like the player a lot, and I think he could generate some interest here as we get down to the deadline.
This in on the Chicago Cubs, planning to remove Trey Mancini from the roster. Couldn't immediately tell if that was a release or DFA. We'll work to find out. That coming from, let's see here, Michael Cerami, who covers the Chicago Cubs. So that's some Cubs insight there. Max Scherzer details his talks with the Mets brass. Ken Rosenthal just dropped that article. I'm sure there's interesting nuggets in there if you want to read that. But, of course, don't tune out of our coverage here as we have about 90 minutes to go until the Major League Baseball trade deadline. Adam Duvall is a player who the Philadelphia Phillies have checked in on 260 average, 9 home runs, 29 RBIs with an 867 OPS. For Adam Duvall, I don't know if he's much of an upgrade from what the Philadelphia Phillies already have. Now, with Bryce Harper playing first base, it has opened up an opportunity for Kyle Schwarber to DH. So what the Phillies have been doing, they've messed around with Brandon Marsh as a corner outfielder, and then they've used this young kid, Johan Rojas, out there in center field. He's had a couple of good moments for the Phillies so far. Adam Duvall might be a better player for a stretch run than a Rojas, but this year, 269 home runs, seasoned veteran. We'll see if the Phillies make a move there. Tommy Pham has a bunch of playoff-level experience, and he's kind of one of those glue guys in the clubhouse. 268 average this year, 10 home runs, 36 ribbies, 820 OPS.
Never forget when he slapped Jock Peterson.
Yeah, never forget that. And for Tommy Pham, he's just another player that the New York Mets might deal away, as they've been extremely disappointing this year. Dylan Carlson, another St. Louis Cardinal who could get dealt. 230 average this year with 5 home runs and 24 RBIs. If you're looking to kind of bulk up your fourth outfielder position, he could be an option there. Teoscar Hernandez, 238 average this year, so not high on that front, but does have a little bit of pop with 16 home runs.
He's also generated a lot of interest over the deadline, I think, because people like his potential as a player going forward. So he's a guy to watch here going forward.
Yeah, very interesting. And looking at some tweets here. A lot of chat about Michael Lorenzen getting traded to the Phillies. The Cubs looking to make at least one more move, as they seem to be all in on trying to make the playoffs this year. Lane Thomas, I like the player. 287 average, 16 home runs, so has a lot of pop. 57 RBIs with an 807 OPS. The Nationals, one of the worst teams in Major League Baseball this year, so they're obviously looking to build for the future. David Bednar, 127 ERA.
One of the best closers in the game right now.
One of the best closers in the game. He closed a game against the Philadelphia Phillies in which he got a game-ending double play on JT Realmuto on Saturday night, and I was really juiced up about that. PNC Ballpark, by the way, I think it's maybe the best ballpark in all of baseball. The setting there, the location, the quality of the ballpark, it's great. If you haven't been to PNC Ballpark before, you got to get there. It is an awesome weekend trip to take in Pittsburgh. Your favorite MLB ballpark, queued up. Good job by producer Coop for getting that on the screen. What is it? Now, I've been to the Mecca that is Fenway and Wrigley. I've been to PNC, Citizens Bank Park, Camden Yards, Dodger Stadium,
Rangers,
Angel Stadium, Rangers new ballpark, the new Yankee Stadium, very lavish and nice. I might go slight edge Fenway over Wrigley, but it's very difficult. I love PNC. I love Citizens Bank Park. All those ballparks are great.
Yeah, they're all great. I think my favorite's the old Rangers ballpark, but it's obviously no longer existing.
Yeah,
so
ballpark at Arlington.
Yes, great ballpark. Of current ballparks, I'd say Wrigley is my favorite, but you really can't beat Wrigley or Fenway. Can't go wrong.
No, they're just the OG ballpark. So what is it? Chris Lauderay saying Fenway. Love it. We have the Lauderay family tuned into the show. DJ Shipley saying Fenway or Dodger Stadium. The old A's Coliseum.
I don't think anybody likes that stadium.
The new A's Coliseum, new in quotations. It's a joke that the A's still play there and that the Rays play at Tropicana.
Oh, my goodness.
Both of those ballparks are not up to standard for 2023. The fact that a Major League Baseball team plays at either of those ballparks, it is a joke.
Have you heard about the whole story where there's some animal that's living inside of the visiting radio booth at Oakland Coliseum?
I have heard about that.
It's insane, and they're just not getting it out. They're not doing anything about it. It's absolutely ridiculous what's happening there in the city of Oakland, and I hope they either get a new stadium or they move out of that city.
Yeah, looking at the NL wildcard standings too right now, the Giants with a one-game lead over the Philadelphia Phillies in that second spot. The Phillies have a half-game lead on the Marlins. The Marlins, a team that the Phillies are duking it out with right now in a pivotal four-game set. So you take a further look at the NL wildcard race. You have the Giants at 58 and 49. We'll see if San Francisco decides to make a move. Philadelphia Phillies in that second wild card spot at 57 and 49. It worked out for Philadelphia last year, beat the Cardinals, beat the Braves, beat the Padres en route to the World Series. And then after taking a 2-1 series lead over the Astros, Houston able to win 3 straight games. The third wild card position is currently occupied in a three-way tie, between the Marlins, the D-backs, and the Milwaukee Brewers, with the Chicago Cubs hanging tight at 53 and 53. They dropped a very close game last night to the Cincinnati Reds in a very big 4-game set that has implications there for the wild card race, but of course in that NL Central. And then you shift over to the AL wild card race. The Rays, 21 games above 500. They're going to be firmly entrenched in that first wild card position. I'm not sure Houston is going to catch them, but Houston's sitting pretty here, 60 and 47, really starting to pick it up. The Blue Jays 1 game back in the third wild card spot. The Boston Red Sox still a factor, 2.5 games back. Angels in the mix, 5 games above 500. They've actually had a lot more success than they have in recent years at 56 and 51. Yankees 55 and 51, 3.5 games back. A lot can change down the stretch run with about 2 months left in the regular season. Can't wait to see how it all plays out.
Cannot wait. And this is really the last day that teams have to get better. You obviously have the non-waiver deadline at the end of August as well, but I think this is the day where teams are trying to make their final push to October. And just look at this division, Chase. You have the Yankees in last place at 4 games over.
Yeah.
And then if you compare that to the AL Central, the Twins are leading that division at 1 game over.
Yeah.
So the AL East is just an absolute gauntlet right now. Shout out to the Baltimore Orioles, who are finally good. Won 83 games last year and surprised everyone.
Yeah.
Led by star catcher Adley Rutschman, and they have a couple of very good young players. They haven't really made a major move yet at this deadline. There were rumors that they were in on Justin Verlander. He obviously went to the Astros.
Yep.
I think they'll still be in on the starting pitcher here going forward, but shout out to the Orioles for having a great season.
Yeah, no, I got to watch a lot of Baltimore last week when they lost 2 of 3 to Philadelphia, but that's a lineup that is very feisty. They're very resilient. They have a lot of different options offensively from 1 to 9. Their pitching staff has been very good. Bullpen very solid as well. Also, some of the cleanest jerseys in all of sports, especially when they rock those white home uniforms.
The white uniforms are fresh.
Because when you talk about orange and black as a color combination, it's just simply one of the best out there. So the AL East race is going to be very, very fascinating down the stretch here because the Orioles, as Coop said, 65 and 41. The Rays at 65 and 44. Blue Jays at 59 and 48. Red Sox at 56 and 50, Yankees at 55 and 51. There are 1, maybe 2 teams in this division who are going to miss out on the playoffs, who could end up being solid teams here in the American League. And then the AL West, this is going to be a fun stretch run just because of the rivalry, in-state rivalry between the Texas Rangers and the Houston Astros. Rangers got off to a great start. Bruce Bochy's done a great job. They flatlined over the last few weeks, which is a big reason why Texas is 60 and 46. That's why they traded for Max Scherzer. We'll see what happens with Nathan Eovaldi. Is there any update on that front?
So he went on the IL the other day with forearm tightness, and Bruce Bochy said today that there's no real update, but he hasn't really progressed. So that would be a shame if Eovaldi's out for the season.
Man, all-star, really good pitcher, has some dirty stuff, and was having a great year for Texas. So hopefully he's able to be okay because that's the same injury, right, that Jacob deGrom had earlier this season.
And then that ended up in Tommy John for Jacob deGrom as well. But yeah, so very disappointing stretch for the Rangers. They started out 40 and 20, which was their best start in franchise history. And in their last 45 games, they're 20 and 25.
Yeah.
So they've been struggling out of the gate, still have a half-game lead on Houston, but it'll be a dogfight in the last 60 or so games.
Yeah, and it's not like Houston's had a bad year. For Houston, it's more so just been a byproduct of a lot of injuries.
For sure.
You know, Yordan Alvarez and Jose Altuve that just got back into the lineup. Lance McCullers out for the year. They've suffered a lot of injuries in that lineup offensively as well. But over the last few weeks, you've seen this Houston team really start to surge. Angels 56 and 51, really trying to make the playoffs or at least be competitive to maybe try and convince Shohei Ohtani to come back to that baseball club. Mariners 55-51, Athletics 30-77. One of, if not the worst teams in Major League Baseball.
The Mariners are interesting. So they actually had the best record in the month of July at 17-9, and they went out and kind of just sold the rest of their team. So I think they kind of gave up because they saw the Angels, Astros, and Rangers all above them, and I don't think they felt like they could catch them. So they ended up selling a lot of their fringe guys.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for the fans too. They made that playoff push last year. They made it in. If they won that game one against Houston, in which Alvarez hit that game-winning walk-off home run, that series could have been a little bit different.
Could have been different.
Houston ends up dominating in that series en route to a World Series championship. AL Central standings, Twins in first place at 54-53. This might be the worst division in all of baseball.
It's horrible.
The fact that the Guardians are in second place at 53-54, one of these teams, they're going to make the playoffs, and they're probably going to lose in that first-round series just because this is a bad division, and the only team that gets in is going to be the division winner because the wild card race, because of the AL East being front-loaded, that's going to occupy probably those two AL wildcard spots.
Yeah, the Twins had some decent pitching in Johan Duran, and they obviously traded for Pablo Lopez in exchange for Reyes, who's having one of the best seasons in Major League Baseball in recent memory. So they have some decent pieces. They just haven't really put it together. This is just an average division, as shown by the standings, with the Twins at 54-53.
Yeah, solid division here in the NL West. I'd say the Dodgers, maybe not as elite as what people thought. I thought that going into this year, because of their lack of moves, it was kind of a retinker while still trying to maintain a level of competitiveness. Only 6 games above 500 at this point for LA. That's a little bit unheard of given their boatload of success the last several years. The Giants, intriguing team at 58-49. Sorry, 14 games above 500 for the Dodgers. Sometimes I can get dyslexic with
We're
numbers.
not great math people. We talk sports.
Math. I failed elementary algebra at Temple University. So 59-45. Giants at 58-49. The D-backs, they've tailed off a little bit. At one point, they were leading the NL West back in about May, 57-50. Padres 52-55, just massively underwhelming this year. And then the Rockies, obviously, pretty bad this year, 42-64. Another intriguing race just because it hasn't gone according to plan because of the surprise Reds with Elly De La Cruz leading the charge. Cincinnati 59-49.
Unbelievable.
I know that De La Cruz, he's probably been the coolest storyline in baseball outside of Shohei Ohtani, but how about this Cincy team?
Look, De La Cruz has been one of the best rookies over the last decade. He's absolutely electrifying. He had the one sequence where he stole second, third, and home on the same, not pitch, but in the same at bat. That guy is just awesome, and shout out to the Reds, who have been bad for a very, very long time. Basically, since Ken Griffey Jr. was there, the Reds haven't been relevant.
No.
But they get De La Cruz, who's one of the best prospects, the best young guys in baseball. They're trying to solidify themselves with some additional starting pitching, maybe some relief pitching as well. This division is not over, though. The Cubs are surging. The Brewers are still going to be there. The Pirates obviously are selling off, but this is still a 3-team race here in the NL Central.
Yeah, and then the NL East, this is a division that is going to be won by the Atlanta Braves. They are 30 games over 500 entering play on this Tuesday, August 1st, 67-37. The most complete team in Major League Baseball, in my opinion, and the numbers obviously back that up. So too does the record. But when you watch them play, they're due to go off at any moment. They had a great offensive showing against a Milwaukee Brewers team that going into this past weekend statistically was a very good defensive and pitching team. Atlanta thrashed them. Now, the Philadelphia Phillies over the weekend did lose 2 of 3 to the Pittsburgh Pirates, but a massive win last night thanks to the game-winning go-ahead RBI from Alec Boehm, second place at 57-49. The Marlins are kind of in that Reds category, and I'm not talking about Cincinnati and the Marlins being one of those small market teams, just surprise teams that have kind of overexceeded expectations.
Yeah, no one expected the Marlins to be in playoff contention, especially with the Mets in that division, who were the highest payroll in baseball, along with the Braves, who everyone thought was going to be there as well. So yeah, the Marlins are having a pretty surprising season, and we'll see if they can continue it into October.
So who's been the biggest MLB trade deadline winner up to this point? Stay tuned for after the deadline, which is approaching, as you can see in the ticker down below Coop and I, at an hour and 15 minutes away. We're going to do our MLB trade deadline winners and losers segment. So we'll do that after the deadline passes. But up to this point, who has been the biggest trade deadline winner up to this point? I think you can talk about the Houston Astros.
That's
the
who I would
Texas
say.
Rangers if Max Scherzer. And it's a big if because the numbers are down if he's able to produce down the stretch.
Yeah, I think those are your two winners for sure. The Astros obviously getting Justin Verlander back from the New York Mets, while the Rangers get some reinforcements in Jordan Montgomery and Max Scherzer on the pitching front. And the Rangers also did trade for Aroldis Chapman about a month ago. I know that doesn't really count because it wasn't at the deadline, but it was a move they made. So the Rangers have done everything they can to put themselves in contention. You just got to pray Nathan Eovaldi comes back and is healthy. And if he is, the Rangers have one of the best rotations in baseball down the stretch.
Yeah, no doubt. According to this report from Boston.com, by the way, we were talking about Alex Verdugo a little while. Producer Jack, big Red Sox fan, he sent this to me. He said that the Red Sox are reportedly going to keep Alex Verdugo. So he is one of the top trade candidates going into the deadline because of that 272 average, 7 home runs, 39 RBIs for Boston this year. The Red Sox in the mix in the AL wildcard race, although that AL East division is very, very loaded, and it's a tight division. So a couple of teams out of that division could end up making the American League playoffs, and Alex Verdugo obviously gives that team some firepower. Let's also talk about this coming in from Brendan Cootie. As of now, told the Yankees still intending to buy as they still search for outfielder help, and that it's highly unlikely they part with either King or Holmes, two of their big prospects, in buy-sell moves at the same time situation. The goal is to give themselves a chance to stay in the race with Aaron Judge back. And that's kind of been a problem for Aaron Judge. Like last year before that, he was pretty healthy, but injuries have really hit him hard. And then when he's out of that lineup, that Yankees team obviously isn't the same. Going into the deadline here, Yankees looking to deal expiring contracts while maybe acquiring additional talent. They want to stay under the luxury tax. When's the last time you heard that in a sentence? In talking about the New York Yankees, they enter August in last place for the first time since 1992. They need a lot of help. They need to be more consistent hitting the baseball, but outfielder help, middle infielder help, that's really what the Yankees need.
Yeah, and there are guys like Harrison Bader and Luis Severino who are both on expiring contracts who have been mentioned in trade rumors throughout here leading up to the deadline. It wouldn't make much sense for me if they traded those guys, especially if the Yankees are still trying to make a playoff run. And I think if you're the Yankees, there's just no way you can sell to your fan base that, hey, we're just going to punt on this season. We're going to sell off our best pieces, get some prospects for the future. That doesn't fly in the Bronx, man. It just doesn't.
No.
So the Yankees are going to have to pick very carefully what they decide to do here in the next hour.
Yeah, I know a lot of Yankees fans have been fed up with this current regime. They've been fed up by some of the managerial decisions made by Aaron Boone, but I think it just comes down to that roster not being a roster that has a lot of pieces that make sense as far as being consistent. And this has been a Yankees organization that's really prioritized the long ball.
For
and we've
sure.
seen that in the playoffs. It might work at home at Yankee Stadium with the short porch, but on the road, it's given them a lot of trouble. Will the Yankees make the playoffs? Our next question for everybody out there. P for postseason, M for miss out. What do you think about the Yankees here? Let us know down in the chat.
I think it's a miss out. I think they're going to miss out on the postseason.
I think so too.
For the first
They're
time in
too
a long time.
inconsistent
They
hitting
are.
the baseball.
They can't put together a winning streak. Aaron Judge and his health have been a story all season long, especially if they get rid of Harrison Bader and Luis Severino. Their chances dwindle for sure. Now, I wonder this. We were talking about this in the office here yesterday. Is this finally the end for Brian Cashman? If they miss the playoffs, will the Steinbrenner family finally say this is it for Brian Cashman and go get a new GM?
I think so. I mean, look, you got to get to a point where you get back to the old Yankee way, in which they're World Series contenders every year, and they're being aggressive and savvy every single offseason. And it feels as though they've gotten away from that, and I'm not really sure why. We're talking about the New York Yankees here. You know, we're not talking about a team that's always cash-strapped and not willing to invest in a ball club like a Pittsburgh Pirates or one of the other small market teams. Again, this is the New York Yankees that we're talking about. And for them to lack aggressiveness and look to stay under the luxury tax, I know that word could come from ownership, but still, who are you kidding? I did see a comment that I like from Marty K. Tim Anderson to the Yankees would be ideal. Look, the Red Sox or the White Sox, moving off a lot of players, right? Tim Anderson, I think, would give the Yankees that swagger that they've kind of been missing. That player who could add a little bit of juice to that lineup and to that culture, because that's something also that they've missed. The Yankees oftentimes are a very confident bunch. And when I watch them at the dish right now, they just don't seem to be a confident bunch that knows what they're doing, and they seem to have a bad approach at the plate. So will the Yankees make the playoffs, postseason, type P, miss out, type M? We have Leroy, miss out. My name, miss out. Richard Duff thinks the Yanks are going to miss out on the playoffs. Any others? I think that's about it. We do have a trade that came in. All right. So the Marlins able to pick up a piece. Just yet another player that the Chicago White Sox are going to trade. Berger, 27 years old. This year he's played in 88 games, 323 plate appearances, only has a .214 average, but 25 home runs. So the Marlins get some pop in that lineup, but the guy is not going to hit for average, but will hit for power. Late bloomer, came into the league at 25, only played in 15 games in 2021 with Chicago. In 2022, 51 games played, and he had 8 home runs while hitting .250. This year, the average has gone down to .214, OBP at .279, but with 25 jacks. So we're not sure what the White Sox are going to get back, but we do know that for a Marlins team that's battling for positioning in the NL wild card, they're going to get some pop at that corner spot at third base in Jake Berger.
The Marlins making moves, trying to assert themselves in the NL East as one of the teams that can compete for playoff contention. Jake Berger, obviously a solid slugger, doesn't hit much for average, but I like the move for the Marlins. If I had to predict right now, I would say it's probably not at a super premium price. So pretty good deal here for the Miami Marlins.
Yeah, Marty K, Big Mac is gone. Damn, I really like Berger. I'm sure you like those 25 home runs.
806 OPS on the season, 115 OPS plus. So he's been pretty good this year.
Leroy Pearson, hopefully I pronounced that right, brother. If not, I apologize. I was hoping the Reds would go after Shohei Ohtani. The only issue with that, and can you imagine Shohei Ohtani and Elly De La Cruz in that same lineup? That would make Cincinnati baseball fans return with the most excitement since the Big Red Machine. I mean, in the early 2010s, they had some pretty good teams led by Joey Votto and Brandon Phillips.
Exactly.
They had some pretty good squads there when I believe Dusty Baker was the manager. They just ran into the gauntlet, that Phillies unit, led by Ryan Howard, Chase Utley, Jimmy Rollins, Cole Hamels, and the crew. I was actually at Roy Halladay's no-hitter against the Reds.
Were you really?
In the 2011?
Very
2010 NLDS? 2010 or 2011. Had some good teams, but my goodness, Shohei and Elly De La Cruz, that would give that juice to that fan base. That would be really fun to watch on a night-in, night-out basis. So Marlins getting Jake Berger, as we said just moments ago, brings a little bit of power to that third base spot. They're in a series right now with the Philadelphia Phillies, if we want to talk about Michael Lorenzen here, because the Phillies needed to add a back-of-the-rotation type, and they were able to do that in Lorenzen, who's having a career year. It is the final year of his contract, so it looks as though Lorenzen is going to be a rental. Longtime Cincinnati Red. He was with the Angels last year. He has a career .402 ERA. He's 36-36. This year, though, let's focus in on these numbers because this is why Philadelphia made the deal. 5-7, who cares? He's playing for a bad Detroit team. 3.58 ERA, 18 starts, 105 2/3 innings pitched, only 89 hits in those 105-plus innings. He's given up 11 home runs. That equals his total from last year and 18 starts. So far, 18 this year. So lower home run rate this year as compared to last year. And looking at his whip, it's just over 1.098. And that is the second best of his career, going all the way back to 2016 when he appeared in 35 games, but came out of the bullpen and only threw in 50 innings that year. So Christopher Sanchez, he might stay in that starting rotation for Philadelphia. They might go six-man rotation to give Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler a little bit of rest because in the World Series, both of those guys really did struggle a little bit. But that's the lone move for the Philadelphia Phillies. Scouted Red Sox outfielder Adam Duvall. That would be that bat that they might need. Needed some pitching, and they got that. Phillies really were rumored to be in on a guy like Juan Soto a couple of weeks ago until San Diego took him off the board. In that case, I would have given up whatever for a player like Juan Soto. That would have been a hell of a haul.
What do you think the Phillies need to do to win the pennant and get back to the World Series?
They just need production. They need production from Trey Turner. Trey Turner has been awful this year. Nick Castellanos, since going to his second All-Star game, he's been bad, and he's been pressing. Bryson Stott has been a revelation. Just an awesome homegrown developmental piece. Alec Boehm moved into the 2 spot last night and was able to have that go-ahead game-winning RBI. So if you get Trey Turner on track, because JT Realmuto is kind of having a down year too, and Bryce Harper coming off the elbow surgery, the power numbers aren't there. They miss Rhys Hoskins, but for them to still be in the mix despite some of the struggles here on that club, you got to imagine at some point Trey Turner can turn it around. I mean, 242 average, 10 home runs this year. OBP is 296. He's having literally the worst year of his career.
I was going to say, he's been really bad, and that comes off the heels of the World Baseball Classic, where he was absolutely tattooing baseballs for Team USA.
Yeah, he was playing awesome baseball in the World Baseball Classic, and Phillies fans are like, damn, we got Trey Turner. But since the start of the regular season up until now, he has not been good. Really the big move of the day, the Astros getting Justin Verlander back, as well as cash considerations. They send away Drew Gilbert and Ryan Clifford. Coop, as a Rangers fan, this is not a move that you were happy to see come across the wire.
This is not the one you wanted to see. Obviously, the Astros give up their first and third best prospects, but they get back Justin Verlander, who has won a World Series with that team and has been one of the best postseason pitchers in baseball. Those cash considerations, according to according to Bob Nightingale, $54 million. So they're giving him $54 million of the remaining $93 million on Verlander's contract.
Wow.
So roughly half. Great deal for the Astros.
Yeah.
Only strengthens them, and yes, as a Rangers fan, it does gravely concern me.
Yeah, because Verlander was injured to start the year, but really since then, he's been really, really good.
He's been excellent.
I'm going to look at his month-by-month stats.
The Rangers also made a deal with the New York Mets, getting Max Scherzer and cash considerations for Luis Angel Acuna. Acuna was never going to play for the Rangers because he was in that middle infield role where they have Corey Seager, who has arguably been the best shortstop in Major League Baseball this year, alongside Marcus Semien at second base. So he was never going to play, so the Rangers were dealing with the position of strength, and they go get a guy like Max Scherzer, who they need, especially if DeGrom and Eovaldi are out for the season.
Yeah. Trying to look at the splits here for Verlander. Here we go. So, yeah, he misses April, and then in May, 4.8 ERA. But then in June, 3.33, July, 1.69, and last 7 days he's made 2 starts, 0.79 ERA, 11 1/3 innings pitched with only 1 earned run. So the Astros are getting back a guy who's really been in a groove really ever since June.
And when you look at his stats, he still has an ERA right around 3. 7.7 strikeouts per 9 is one of the lowest numbers of his career, but he's still Justin Verlander, even though he's 40 years old.
Yeah. Let's talk about Max Scherzer here. Coop, I know you and I have talked about Scherzer a lot, with you being a Rangers fan, us being in Dallas here. And some of the trends for Scherzer, a little bit concerning.
For sure.
Spin rate, velocity down, home runs given up. They're obviously on the uptick this year. Can he be that veteran who goes to a new destination and the adrenaline hits him, the change of scenery hits him, he gets out of the pressure cooker that is New York, as that signing ended up being an absolute disaster for Steve Cohen and the Mets, and have more success with the Rangers?
Certainly, yeah. I mean, and the Rangers need Max Scherzer to come in and be that dog right away. He reunites himself with Mike Maddox, who was his pitching coach with the Washington Nationals, where Scherzer won multiple Cy Youngs. And in Scherzer, the Rangers get a guy that has been there and done that, a guy who the Rangers didn't have before in their starting rotation. So Max Scherzer, a huge pickup for the Rangers. We'll see what happens here down the stretch. Hopefully he gives them some of the old Max Scherzer. I'm not expecting him to be an ace. I'm not expecting him to go out and throw seven innings of shutout ball every single night. But he does need to be a steadying presence for a Rangers rotation that in July has the second highest ERA at over 5.5.
Yeah. Because the bats for the Rangers have been really good. How many All-Star starters did they have? 5 or 6?
5 All-Star starters, yes. Jonah Heim, Corey Seager, Marcus Semien, Josh Young, and Adolis Garcia.
They just need to get the pitching figured out.
Well, but here the lineup lately has struggled. I mean, against San Diego, they scored 4 runs in 3 games, including a shutout and a 1-run game. So they've struggled here as of late. But obviously their main concern was starting pitching, and they've addressed it.
What a lot of people don't realize is the lulls that happen throughout the course of a baseball season. You know, it's cliche to say 162 games and, you know, you're not going to be consistent from start to finish. Everybody always talks about averages playing out. That's another popular motto and saying out there. But it happens all the time. You know, teams can't sustainably be like the Atlanta Braves year in and year out. What Atlanta is doing is really special. But I'll tell you this, you know, if Atlanta goes cold in September and that goes into October, they could easily lose to a team in the divisional round very, very easily just because it's all about who's hot at the right time. So while the Rangers might be struggling right now, if those bats start to pick it up, they could be a really, really scary team.
I hope so, man. They really need the bats to pick up. And hopefully Jordan Montgomery and Max Scherzer are welcome additions to the rotation who are just steadying this rotation. Because right now they have guys like Andrew Heaney and Martin Perez who just can't get out of their own way. So hopefully Scherzer and Montgomery will provide much-needed pitching ability to that starting rotation.
Yeah, and obviously, you know, as we've continued to talk about, like the injuries to Texas have not done them any favors with Jonah Heim, Corey Seager, Nathan Eovaldi. If Eovaldi is injured, and that's a really, really severe injury, that is not a good sign for Texas. No. I think, you know, you made that trade for Scherzer thinking, okay, now we have Eovaldi and we have Scherzer.
Exactly.
And then we get DeGrom back next year, and that can be kind of our three-headed monster atop that rotation.
They need Eovaldi to be back, man. There's obviously no real news on his injury other than that it hasn't really made progress over the last week. At first, the timeline kind of worked like this. So at first, they skipped his start against the Astros. They said he was going to be back. Then when his rotation day came up, it was a bullpen game, so he skipped it again. All of a sudden, he's on the IL, and now we don't know. There's no timetable for his return at this point. So the Rangers really need Nathan Eovaldi back. If he doesn't come back this year, the Rangers are in trouble, no doubt.
We're less than an hour to go until the 2023 Major League Baseball trade deadline. If you're pumped up and if you love Major League Baseball, type me. A big reason why we're live is because some of the Major League Baseball videos that we've done have done really well. And we love talking baseball here at Chat Sports. So if you love Major League Baseball, type me. I want to see everybody get the comment section going here.
Spam me. Let's go.
And can somebody beat us with how many times that we are typing me? Game Boy, Leroy, Daniel, my name Hagen. He's been with us from the start. He was even hanging out in the chat before he even started the show. Jack Lauderay. My name. Typing a bunch of me's.
My name.
Who else is out there? Owen, Leroy, Owen J, Billy, Jamie, William. If you want a shout out, type me. We have another Jack in the chat. Cue up the Spider-Man meme. Owen J, Juan Hernandez. Angel, all type in me. If you love Major League Baseball, let us know in the chat. Owen J with a big me right there. Definitely have some real ones hanging out.
Another big starter off the market. It looks like Eduardo Rodriquez heading from the Tigers to the Dodgers.
Wow. So Eduardo Rodriquez looks as though he is going to the Dodgers.
A trade in place. Oh, but he invoked his no trade clause.
Oh,
I got
okay.
it.
How about that? Imagine declining a trade to the Dodgers from Detroit.
From the Tigers. What are you doing?
Wow. Yeah, so he started his career with Boston. And then this year, the 30-year-old, 6-5 with a 2.95 ERA, by far career year. Maybe he's happy with the familiarity. In Chicago, 88 in the third innings pitched. He has a career low whip of 1.03. Finished 6th in Cy Young voting back in 2019 with Boston when he went 19-6 with a 3.81 ERA. He led the Bigs in games started with 34, only threw 203-plus innings that year.
Here's a great tweet.
But he's vetoed going to the Dodgers.
Great tweet from Levi Weaver of The Athletic. He said, players are humans too. Family, comfort levels, a vast spectrum of factors can influence these decisions. But I'd rather literally stay with the Detroit Tigers. It's still absolutely wild.
Yeah. This news just in as well. The Philadelphia Phillies have designated Josh Harrison for assignment.
I didn't know he was still playing.
Does that mean that a move could be coming for Philadelphia?
Probably just for Lorenzen to make room on the 40.
Could be. Make room for Lorenzen on the 40, or they have another move up their sleeves. Dave Dombrowski. Is he silently lurking? So 52 minutes left until the Major League Baseball trade deadline. Yeah, Drew and Scotia, thanks for the note there. He rejected the trade. Yes, he did.
That's crazy to me. You would think that he'd want to go to a contending team and try to go win a World Series, but I guess his family is comfortable in Detroit, so he elected to stay.
Scott Marquis, Heim Bloom is a sick joke.
Is that Jack Laudere's burner?
Yeah, it might be Jack Laudere's burner. My name Hagen. Wait, so the deadline is over once time runs out or not? Yes. Can't make any moves after that.
Once the timer runs out, no more trades can be made.
That's it. Maybe some moves happen before the deadline that trickle out after the deadline at 6 o'clock Eastern.
Brett Scott's coming in.
Leroy, Carter.
Intern Brett.
You remember when Greinke got traded basically after the deadline?
Yes, Darvish too. 10 minutes after the deadline.
Yeah, because the fax machines are just that
Fax
slow or
machines, they're
something.
slow.
Come on.
We're using fax machines in 2023.
Yeah, Scott Marquis. Honestly, Heim, what are you doing? We lose 3 in a row and you're not going to fix it? He has been very underwhelming for Red Sox fans. What he did with the Tampa Bay Rays was really, really impressive. Able to put together really good collection of talent for an organization that obviously doesn't invest in their baseball team, which is sad. But from a scouting, analytics, roster construction point of view, Heim Bloom did awesome. I know I really wanted him to go to the Philadelphia Phillies. Instead, they hired the fraud Andy McPhail. And Heim has been underwhelming in Boston. Jack Lauderay chiming in, saying Heim needs to go. Daniel, Chase, and Jeffrey, if you have to give up Kamar Rocker, Aaron Zavala, and Bubba Thompson for Bednar and Hedges, would you do it?
Send it in yesterday.
Send it in, Jerome.
Yesterday. Bubba Thompson is not going to be anything more than a fourth outfielder in MLB. He's one of the fastest guys in Major League Baseball. Committed to Alabama to play quarterback originally.
Wow.
Bubba Thompson was.
Game Boy saying Jake Berger to Miami. Yes, we did talk about that as soon as that came across. Gives Miami, in the midst of that playoff push, a little bit of pop at third base. Batting average, not great, but 25 jacks this year. Not bad at all. And then Marty K, he's continuing to push this. Any relationship with Michael K? Let us know. Anderson to the Yankees. He really wants Tim Anderson to the Yankees. Cease to the Orioles. Bummer to the Cubs. Michael Kopech and Middleton to any team who will take them.
Michael Kopech is an all-time bust.
He is. Kind of a head case,
bust.
too.
Yes.
Has he done anything since that surgery?
He has not been very good at all since that surgery, no. Tim Anderson to the Yankees would kind of interest me. They really haven't had a great shortstop since Derek Jeter. Anthony Volpe has been a rookie this year. He's had his ups and downs. They've had Didi Gregorius, who was okay, but they really haven't had that franchise shortstop. I think Tim Anderson could be that kind of guy.
Okay. Kopech, right?
Yes, Michael Kopech.
He has not been terrible. Didn't play in 2020. Opted out because of COVID. And then in 2021, only 69 innings pitched.
Nice.
3.5 ERA. And then last year, 3.54 ERA and 119 innings pitched. And this year, 4.49. So not great. Certainly hasn't been the next coming that everybody kind of deemed he was going to become. But he hasn't been awful. Not great, but not awful. It's hard to gauge when that White Sox team has just been bad.
They've been so bad for so long. And they never spend in free agency. Shout out to Mr. Reinsdorf over there in Chicago.
Yeah, Billy saying Manny Ramirez was traded to the Dodgers after the deadline in 2008. Yeah, as we were joking around, like the fax machine can be a little bit slow and delayed. So sometimes moves happen like right after that, as we were kind of joking around about.
And I think
you got to give it, 5
me.
minutes, a little bit of a buffer zone there.
I think they changed this rule, but I don't believe there's a waiver deadline anymore. Because if you remember, Justin Verlander got traded to the Astros on August 31st at like midnight.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the Phillies did that with Jamie Moyer as well back in the day. Because there was the deadline, and then there were other moves that could be made about, a month later?
Yes.
For the final month of the
player
season?
would have to go through waivers, and if they got through waivers, then you could trade him.
Yeah. So the New York Yankees, been a lot of discussion about the Yankees. Look at a deal, kind of expiring contracts, of course. For New York, it all comes down to getting Aaron Judge back. They have really missed him in that lineup. They enter August in last place for the first time since 1992.
Crazy.
That is sustainable success to the nth degree. And very, very impressive. Their needs, outfielder, middle infielder. There was some buzz about Cody Bellinger, but Cubs aren't going to trade him. It looks as though they're going to hold on to him. For those of you coming across the show for the first time, make sure you subscribed. And if you ain't subscribed, you ain't alive. We're doing some Major League Baseball trade deadline coverage today. We also cover the NFL and NBA as well as college football here at Chat Sports. So if you're in the market for all of that, hit that sub button and join the ever-growing family here at Chat Sports. So Eduardo Rodriquez, by the way, invoked the no trade clause to quash deal from the
Correct.
Tigers to the Dodgers.
Crazy.
The Orlando Magic have donated $50,000 to Ron DeSantis. That'll get a lot of people annoyed.
Oh, my God.
Make sure you subscribe. 46 minutes away from the Major League Baseball trade deadline.
Chase, let's talk about the Cubs. I feel like we really haven't talked about them. They kind of decided that they were going to be in buyer mode. While we thought they were going to sell Cody Bellinger, Marcus Stroman, we thought they were going to be on the market. They've elected to not trade Cody Bellinger. I don't believe they're going to trade Stroman here with 46 minutes left now. They could make some minor moves. They did get Jeimer Candelario, who's been one of the surprise players in MLB this year from the Nationals.
Yeah.
And
leads all National League third basemen in OPS.
Interesting. Okay. Our Cubs fan here, Matthew Peterson, said that was really the only hole that the Cubs had was third baseman. So they ended up addressing that need. And here they are heading into the final month of the season at 500.
Yeah. Some notes here for the Philadelphia Phillies. Rob Thompson, their skipper, said that with the addition of Michael Lorenzen, the Phillies will use a 6-man rotation the next 2 weeks. Lorenzen likely to debut Thursday in Miami. Unclear what they'll do beyond August 14th, their next off day. Brandon Marsh did play with Lorenzen while with the Angels in 2022. Says he is a great pitcher, incredible teammate, has big biceps. It's going to be a great fit here. Super excited to see him again. Give him a hug. Hope he picks me up. He's strong. So the Phillies needed to bolster up the back end of that rotation. Able to do that with Lorenzen here.
At this point, the Phillies are basically playing for wild card standing. With the Braves at 67 and 37, have an 11-game lead on the second-place Phils.
Given how well-rounded they are, how hot they are, how elite of a team they are, pitching-wise, offensively in that lineup, Atlanta Braves aren't going anywhere. They are not going to squander a 10-game lead in the win column. They're 67 and 37, putting together one of the best seasons in recent memory. I'm trying to think of the last team that was on a pace like this.
The 2018 Red Sox, I believe, won over 110. I think the Dodgers a few years ago won close to that as well.
2011 Phillies, that was the team with Roy Halladay, Cliff Lee, Cole Hamels. Roy Oswalt, they won more than 100 games, 102, I believe.
And before last season, that was the last time they made the playoffs, wasn't it?
It was. It was. So Atlanta, 67-37. Philadelphia really just playing for the wild card. Huge series. 4-game set with Miami. They won that first game last night. Marlins looking to rebound tonight, or the Phillies looking to continue that momentum after a disappointing weekend in Pittsburgh. A half game separates those two organizations. You look at the NL Central, the surprise Reds, 59-49. And really, they've been good since Ellie De La Cruz entered that lineup. Like, since promoting him, they've been awesome. And he has inserted just this level of energy in that organization where they've been the surprise team in Major League Baseball. The Brewers, been a steady team this year, 57-49, 1.5 games back. And then the Cubs, only 6 games back for the divisional lead here in the Central. But I think for Chicago, it's more about playing for a wild card spot as compared to the NL Central crown. NL West, Dodgers, 14 games above 500 at 59-45. The Giants, they currently occupy the first wild card spot at 58-49, 2.5 games back of the division. So that race will be fun because the D-backs are in the mix at 57-50, 3.5 games back. Padres have been so disappointing. 52-55. Are they going to be able to get it together here down the stretch? Something just seems broken about that baseball team. You can count out the Rockies, of course, at 42-64. The AL East, Orioles, like the Reds, one of the surprise teams in Major League Baseball, 65-41. That farm system is loaded with some really premier players as well. The Rays, 65-44. Blue Jays, 59-48, making a couple of moves as we discussed at the start of the show. Red Sox, 56-50. Yankees, 55-51. Last place in the division for the first time since 1992 going into August. AL Central, you go from the worst division, or you go from the best division in the AL East to the worst division in the AL Central. Twins, 54-53. Guardians, 53-54. Tigers, White Sox, Royals, all out of the mix. But it's hilarious that the Tigers, going into August here, they're 12 games below 500, only 6.5 games back.
Not out of it.
You're saying there's a chance.
Not out of it. Maybe that's why Rodriquez is waiving his no-trade clause.
AL West, Rangers got dusted by the Astros last week, but still hold to that half-game lead, so clinging on to that. Angels, 56-51, looking to appease Shohei Ohtani. Mariners, 55-51. Athletics, 30-77. The White Sox making a trade too, acquiring Luis Patino from the Tampa Bay Rays. I would say that the Phillies still desperately need a bat.
Who is that? Luis Patino.
Yeah.
I don't even know who that is.
Rays shopping Manuel Margot, searching for a bat-first outfielder.
Interesting coming from the Razors camp. Apparently, Scherzer talked with Jacob deGrom before he waived his no-trade clause about coming to the Rangers, and deGrom more or less convinced him to waive his no-trade clause and come to DFW.
Wow. Jim Leland, longtime Tigers manager, he walked out of the, I believe, White Sox clubhouse and said, "I've been traded as well." Kind of a joke because of all of the moves that the White Sox have made today. Very busy day for the other team in Chicago.
They traded away Jake Berger to the Miami Marlins. We're still waiting the return on that deal as soon as we get it. We'll give it to you. Andrew Chafin heading from the Diamondbacks to the Brewers as they pick up a reliever. Those are your two most recent deals. Just before we went live, the Phillies get Michael Lorenzen, the right-handed pitcher from the Detroit Tigers, who can either start or come out of the bullpen. Sounds like he's going to start, though, right?
Yeah, so the Phillies are going to go with the six-man rotation for at least the next 2 weeks. So Christopher Sanchez, who has been a pleasant surprise for Philly, he will stay in that rotation. So too, obviously, will the new acquisition in Lorenzen. And then you can use either one of them as a long bullpen arm. Matt Strahm has kind of been relegated to that role as he started the season as a starter, but better coming in out of the bullpen.
The big move of the day, Justin Verlander heading back to Houston. The Astros giving up their first and third best prospects in their farm system to bring Verlander back to H-Town. Houston getting, I believe, around $54 million in cash of his $93 remaining on his contract. What a steal for the Astros, honestly.
Yeah, it's a great steal considering the need that they had. But then the pitcher that Verlander has been this year. Like, I think people have this misconception that he hasn't been good. Justin Verlander's been really, really good. Now, he was injured in April. He comes back in May. 4.8 ERA, so everybody's like, oh, Justin Verlander, like Max Scherzer, Boston, New York. No. Because after that, he's been awesome. 3.33 ERA in June. A 1.69 ERA so far in July. And you know his spin rate's going to go up going to Houston as well.
Absolutely it will.
So for the Astros to really not have to give that much up for Justin Verlander, them being in the mix in the AL West, huge deal for the defending World Series champions. Owen J, can you give me a yeah, boy? Yeah, boy! There you go, Owen J.
And the one thing you know about Verlander is when it gets to the winning time, when it gets to September and when it gets to October, dude's going to turn it on.
Yeah, you know he's going to turn it on. And look, he kind of exercised his World Series demons last year. He wasn't good in Game 1 against Philadelphia, and then comes back and won that monster Game 5 on the road, and was able to exercise those playoff demons that have kind of been haunting him for his entire career as far as the World Series goes. But he ended up putting forward a massive start. And for him to leave Houston and go to the Mets, it never really made like a ton of sense. It kind of looked weird seeing him in that Mets uniform.
I think it was about the bag.
It was about the bag, especially at that age, because Justin Verlander is, what, 40 already?
I believe he's 40.
And it was about the bag, of course, but the Mets were also all in.
Daniel, would you do Elias Diaz and Chris Bryant for Kumar Rocker, Jack Leiter, Zaval, and Bubba Thompson? The Rockies wouldn't do that, nor would I do that. The Rangers don't need Chris Bryant at this point. He's on a huge contract as well. He doesn't really fit into what the Rangers are trying to do. The Rangers already have Josh Young at third base. They could theoretically use Bryant in left field, but I don't think he's worth the investment.
Yeah, and here's the latest with Verlander here. Verlander owed $58 million in 2023-2024, of which the Mets will pay $35 million per source. That's coming from Mark Feinsand. If Verlander's $35 million option for 2025 vests, the Mets will pick up $17.5 million, bringing their total to $52.5 million in the trade, all of which will count against their CBT. So this goes down as another financial nightmare for New York. They're going to be paying a lot of money for Verlander, who's not going to be on the team.
It doesn't matter to Steve Cohen.
It doesn't matter, but...
It doesn't matter, but it matters.
It matters. So that's the latest there on the Verlander deal and some of the specifics. Let's pivot back to the comment section here. Who do you think the best player to get traded so far today has been? We're 35 minutes to go until the Major League Baseball trade deadline. Manuel Ortega, hi. Jeffrey and Chase, Yankees. Yeah, we'll talk about the Yankees here in a bit. Marty K said Jake Berger. I'm going to go Verlander. Because of the success he's had in his career, but also the player that he is right now. Game Boy saying Jake Berger as well. A lot of sneaky White Sox fans in the chat. Very interesting today. Somebody's in the chat asking what your favorite fruit is. I would have to go pineapple. I think a ripe pineapple is the best fruit out there. I think that if you find a good pineapple, there's not a better fruit out there than that. Max Meehan, go Reds. Congrats to your Reds, man. That's a good baseball city. It's been good to see that stadium packed once again after a couple of down years. I know last year things were down bad, and they weren't spending any money there for a little bit, but you arguably have the most exciting player in baseball outside of Shohei Ohtani and Ellie De La Cruz. Daniel, is Austin Hedges to the Rangers a good pickup? What do you think, Coop?
Yeah, Austin Hedges, one of the best defensive catchers in the league, and he's actually having a good year from the plate as well. If Jonah Heim's out for the season, which he may very well be after these next couple of weeks, Hedges would be a good pickup.
Marty K knows that White Sox team in and out. Let's show him the Super Chat menu here, Coop. Baseball and beers are synonymous. So whoever sends in a Super Chat, this beer will be dedicated to you. And here's our Super Chat menu for today. If you send in a $5 Super Chat, we'll talk about your squad. $10, I'll take a sip out of this beer bat right here.
Pretty impressive beer bat.
$20, we'll bang the Astros trash can, like such. $50, beer bat. I'll put an entire beer in here, and I'll drink the whole thing. And if somebody sends us a $100 donation, 3 beers in this boot, and we chug it. That right there, our Super Chat menu. So if you want to donate to the show, we always appreciate that. It helps us grow here at Chat Sports.
32 minutes and counting until the deadline.
Yeah.
We will have some deals that come in maybe a few minutes after. No Yankee deals so far. We can hit the Yankees here.
Wrestling the Wilkinsons with a very telling quote on the New York Mets. I'm a Mets fan. This has been a horrible 8 years since the World Series run. The loss last year to the Padres was not good.
Not a good loss.
Not a good series loss to the Padres because the Mets were so good last year. And that was so disappointing for them to underwhelm in that regard. So not good. Yeah, let's talk about the Yankees here. We got that question a little bit earlier. That one was coming in from, I think, Edgar. It may have been. Yankees look at a deal expiring contracts while acquiring additional talent. Yanks enter August in last place for the first time since 1992. Couple of needs, outfielder, middle infielder. We can go through all these team cards here, Coop, if you want.
Yeah, let's do it.
To go team for team because I know people are well represented as far as who they root for. My name!
Let's go!
$5 Super Chat gets us started here. Thank you, my name. Because that means we can finally crack this beer here. Do you think the Red Sox will do anything? Let's get some deals, Major League Baseball. I am bored. Thinking about the anticipation of this MLB trade deadline a couple of weeks ago, we were looking at Shohei Ohtani getting traded, Juan Soto, Cody Bellinger. All of those players are now off the market. But my name, Hagen, at least we have each other. Cheers. That's good. So Yankees, that's the latest on New York. We'll continue to go through all these teams. My name, Hagen, with the $5 donation. Do you think the Red Sox will do anything? Let's get some deals, Major League Baseball, on board. I think everybody is kind of bored with where we are right now. 30 minutes to go until the
Hasn't been a whole lot of activity.
Boston Red Sox traded Kike Hernandez to the Dodgers. Alex Verdugo, Adam Duvall garnering some interest, but we passed along that report a little while ago that it looks as though the Red Sox are going to hold on to Alex Verdugo. And really where Boston is right now, in the mix, but out of the mix. It's very interesting just because of how loaded that AL East is. They've discussed both buying and selling scenarios. And a big reason why they're talking about selling, it's the teams that are ahead of them in that division, like the Toronto Blue Jays and the Baltimore Orioles. The Orioles specifically leading a very difficult AL East, night in, night out in that division. Very, very competitive. And they're leading on August 1st in this division for the first time since 2016. One of the teams at the front of the Justin Verlander sweepstakes going into today, but he's going back to the Houston Astros. Their needs, they're in on Verlander because they needed starting pitching as well as a bench bat. Maybe they still make a move for a starter. Maybe they still get that bench bat. But other than that, they're in a pretty good spot. Los Angeles Angels, they've gone all in.
The Rangers are getting Hedges.
Are they?
Austin Hedges.
Austin Hedges.
So the Rangers addressed one of their big needs in catcher. That also tells me Jonah Heim's out for the season.
You would think, right?
But that's big. That's a big need for the Rangers. I'll update the tracker here real quick.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Rangers because they are making a move for Austin Hedges, who this year, after a couple of years stint with the Cleveland Guardians, was with the Pittsburgh Pirates.
I know the Rangers...
Only hitting 180, though.
Yes, only hitting 180. Not a great offensive catcher by any means, but he does provide much-needed defense, which the Rangers don't have at the catcher position with Jonah Heim out because Mitch Garver really can't play the position at all. So they get Hedges, who's an experienced catcher who they can lean on down the stretch.
Scott Marquis with the sleeping emoji, live look at Heim Bloom. Given how passionate Red Sox fans are, how aggressive that city can be, and the city can be, and the winning tradition that they have, it's wild that Heim Bloom is just staying put and hasn't done anything to move the needle as the leading baseball executive for the Boston Red Sox. Eric Haas needs to lead Detroit from Game Boy. A lot of Detroit and Chicago White Sox fans in the chat. Is Bednar in the deal with Hedges?
I hope so. I don't believe he is. At this point, at least, it doesn't seem like he is.
You said you hope so?
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the best closers in the league, a 1.2 ERA. The Rangers could always use some more bullpen help.
Yeah, they made the move for Aroldis Chapman. Make the move for Max Scherzer. Have to give credit to ownership, Coop. I mean, they've really been aggressive in trying to improve this roster.
For sure.
And it really started with what? Corey Seager, right?
Yeah.
Seager was the first move after they'd been irrelevant for a long time to kind of move that needle.
Yeah, in the winter of 21, heading into last season, they signed Marcus Semien, and that we thought he was going to be their shortstop for the next 7 years. And then the next day, they went out and signed Corey Seager to a 10-year, $325 million deal. So they spent $500 million on their middle infield last offseason, and that really set the foundation for what the Rangers were going to do. They fired Chris Woodward. They fired John Daniels. They revamped their front office. They brought in Bruce Bochy, who's a 3-time World Series winner, to bring them some experience. And now they're having a season, I would say, better than expected here as they sit atop the AOS for now. The Astros obviously lurking right behind them, but it's been an impressive season for the Rangers thus far. They have dealt with some injuries as Jonah Heim. We're waiting to see what happens with him, as he might be out for the season, but they did get Austin Hedges from the Pirates.
Yeah, they got a catcher.
I saw, yes. They got Austin Hedges from the Pirates.
Did he start for Pittsburgh?
Yeah, he was their starter. So we're waiting on the return for Hedges.
Gives him some security at least.
Gives them security if Heim is out, which it sounds like he is.
Yeah, he played for the Padres for a really long time. A career batting average of 189. So he is not an offensive option whatsoever, but a solid defensive player. The highest that he's ever hit in a season, 231 with San Diego and 91 games played back in 2018.
So according to Mark Feinsand, the Rangers are only giving up international bonus pool money. So they're not even giving up a prospect for Hedges. They're just kind of
You shouldn't have to. If you trade for a guy who is hitting below the Mendoza line, you shouldn't have to give up much.
The Rangers have kind of botched their catching situation this year. They started with Jonah Heim and Mitch Garver. Mitch Garver ended up getting hurt. They brought in Sandy Leone, who was very good. And then they just kind of DFA'd Sandy Leone for no reason. Brought up Sam Huff, who was supposed to be a big-time hitting prospect.
Yep.
He stinks. He's no good at all. So they've kind of botched it. They correct it here by going and getting Austin Hedges, who can give them some much-needed innings behind the plate. Like I said, Mitch Garver, they would like him to be a DH more often than a catcher just because he's a guy that really can't play the catching position much anymore, given his weak knees. But I like this move for the Rangers, who only have to send international bonus money to the Pirates in exchange for Austin Hedges.
Yeah, looking at the most recent developments here, not really seeing much. This has been an underwhelming deadline.
About 24 minutes, less than 24 minutes now until the deadline. Talk to us in the comments, interact with us. Tell us who your favorite team is and who they should trade for.
Yeah, let's get the comment section going here. I know that Major League Baseball and Chaim Bloom are snoozing right now, but we don't have to snooze here. 23 and change left to go until the deadline. Your favorite team. What's your favorite squad? And who should they trade for? William, Ellie De La Cruz.
Yeah.
Wrestling, give me DeGrom back. You don't want him back because he's injured.
I still want DeGrom on the Rangers, hot take.
Owen J, St. Louis. Jimmy O, Chicago. Leroy, he's been in the chat all day. One of our commenter MVPs.
Real one.
Cincinnati Reds here, and I want Rodriquez from the Tigers.
He waived his no-trade clause.
He waived it. He could have gotten traded to the Dodgers. He waived it, declined. Game Boy, Tigers and Ronald Acuna. Well, it's not like the Tigers have a lot of players to root for right now, so I hear you. Josh Homan, Reds. Wrestling, Mets. Scott, Red Sox get Stroman or Cease. Giants went to the game yesterday. Nice. From Athian. Hopefully I pronounced that right. Tyler, Cubs trade for Pete Alonso. The Mets aren't going to give him up. I know that it's been really frustrating for New York, but they're not going to trade him.
Giants are an
Jimmy O
interesting
said
team.
Pete Alonso to the Cubs too. Not going to happen.
The Giants are an interesting team here. They're kind of right in the mix in the NL West. They already got A.J. Pollock and Mark Mathias from the Mariners. They were in the mix for some starting pitching. I know they like Jordan Montgomery, who ended up going to the Rangers. But they're also looking at starting pitching ahead of the deadline.
Our boy Evan Hinders really likes Mitch Keller. 9-7 this year, 3.97 ERA. He's steadily been under 4 in 3 of the last 4 years. But Evans going with Keller.
He's a guy
the Angels are his favorite squad.
He's a guy that you really just don't know much about because he's on the freaking Pirates.
Plays in Pittsburgh.
No one knows anything about the Pirates because they've been so irrelevant for so long. I do like Mitch Keller, though.
Cincinnati Reds, and any pitching help, please, from White Feather. Yeah, that's an interesting team as we approach the deadline. Are they going to do anything of note? The shy White Sox need to trade everyone. They've already made multiple moves already.
They still have Dylan Cease and Luis Robert, but that's really it. Trade Dylan Cease for Gunnar Henderson and Jackson Holliday? Now that would be interesting, Marty K.
Wow.
That would be really interesting. Gunnar Henderson, one of the best.
Holliday might be untouchable, right?
I would think so. He's their top prospect, and Gunnar Henderson, one of the best third baseman prospects in the league. Obviously a rookie this year, so he's graduated from prospect status. Daniel, are the Rangers done making moves? If I had to guess, I'd say yes. I think they are done making moves.
Yeah, they've been so busy. really ever since Chapman, like they've been steadily looking for ways to improve that roster.
They traded for Chapman, I believe, it was either the night of the NBA draft or NBA free agency when they traded for Aroldis Chapman. They got Max Scherzer. They went out and got Jordan Montgomery and Chris Stratton from the Cardinals. And now they have gotten Austin Hedges from the Pirates. Bullpen, still tough, yes. They have Will Smith and Chapman in the back end. Jose Leclerc's been better of late, but they are very volatile.
Yeah.
And bullpens win and lose you games here down the stretch as well.
Dean Robinson, how about the Yankees? Yankee fans might riot if they don't do anything in the next 19 minutes. Yankee fans want to at least see Brian Cashman do something to try to improve the team.
We were talking earlier, if the Yankees end up missing on the postseason altogether, does this spell the end for Brian Cashman in New York?
Yeah, it could. The pressure could just get so loud. And then if Cashman is out, does that then mean that Aaron Boone is out as well?
Exactly.
Oh, and Jay, what's the most home runs in one season? Barry Bonds.
73, right?
73. A record that stands in my books, by the way.
Yes, absolutely. Bring back the steroid era.
Yeah.
Yam Sam, the O's cannot get Justin Verlander because he just went to the Houston Astros. So they cannot.
This coming from Joel Sherman. Expectation is that the Cardinals will still trade Jack Flaherty, perhaps in conjunction with an outfielder such as Dylan Carlson or Tyler O'Neill. The Dodgers still want to add a starting pitcher, perhaps the Braves as well. So we're coming down the stretch here. 18 minutes left to go until the deadline. Carlson, .230 batting average, 5 home runs this year, and then Flaherty back into the rotation type for a team like the Dodgers.
He's been really good over his career, just disappointing this season.
Yeah.
I like Jack Flaherty a lot. If he's saying he's still going to get traded, I mean, no time like the present here. We got 17 minutes to go.
Yeah, Flaherty, still only 27 years old. Career ERA of 3.58. 41 and 31 throughout his career. So last 2 years, though, a little bit troublesome. Last year only played sparingly, 9 and 8, 36 innings pitched. 4.25 ERA. This year, 4.43. But before that, 3.22, 4.91, 2.75, 3.34, and a 6.33. 2019, when he did log that 2.75 ERA, when he went 11 and 8.
Look at that whip.
Lowest
0.9.
whip of his career, 0.9. Cy Young voting 4th. So that was his lone excellent season. And then he's had other good seasons on top of that.
Cardinals more than likely going to have their first losing season since 2007. They've been a model of consistency in Major League Baseball over the last 15 years. They traded away Jordan Montgomery and Chris Stratton to the Rangers. In addition to Jordan Hicks to the Toronto Blue Jays, their star closer. They're listening to offers on Paul Goldschmidt, according to reports, but he's probably not going to be moved here.
Yeah.
Tyler O'Neill, one of the guys that could be headed out in the deal as well, as the deadline nears 16 minutes. Feel like a lot of the major moves that have pretty much already happened. If Jack Flaherty gets dealt, that'd be a big deal for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. See, that's a player who might be struggling this year. You put him into a playoff hunt. Again, the adrenaline pumping
It
is
invigorates you, man.
Invigorates you. End up performing well down the stretch. So we're just kind of in waiting mode here. 138 people watching live. Can we get to 100 likes? Hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. We're at 54 likes right now if you're enjoying hanging out with us. As we wait to see what moves happen over the next 15 minutes and change, like the video. Brian Harlow saying anything? Justin Verlander, the big significant move so far.
This from John Morosi of MLB Network. The Mets are in active trade negotiations on multiple players. Tommy Pham, Adam Ottavino, and Brooks Raleigh. All could be moved within the next 20 minutes. Ottavino, one of those auto moves. Fellow Mets fan Nick Roloff kind of in shambles about it. Not shambles. Epdog is him, quote unquote.
How about the Twins?
We'll hit the Twins.
Yeah, we could talk about the Twins here. Favorite Major League Baseball player? I'll go Bryce Harper. Minnesota Twins. Best team in a bad division. Listening to offers on starting pitchers Sonny Gray and Kenta Maeda. Sonny Gray's been really good. Small market, really good pitcher. Goes to New York, couldn't do jack. They need a right-handed bat relief pitching, more consistency because the Minnesota Twins, again, the leaders in a bad division. If you want to look at the AL Central standings right now, we can certainly look at that. Evan Hinders, Chris Bryant to Philadelphia, that would be something.
That'd be crazy.
Stuck in Colorado. Not sure why he signed there. So AL Central here. Twins 54 and 53. Guardians 53 and 54. Detroit Tigers 47 and 59. White Sox 43-64. And then the Royals, one of the worst teams in baseball. So Twins, they can make a move if they're just like, hey, let us get into the dance and we'll see.
If you're the Twins, 85 games probably wins you the division. Is it worth making a move to just get ousted in the first round? I don't know.
Yeah.
Scott Markey, the Sox will not get Ohtani. Oh, in the offseason. Maybe. I really think Ohtani's going to end up staying on the West Coast, probably go to the Dodgers. But it's possible. Sitting at under 13 minutes until the trade deadline passes.
You want to do shout out your favorite team there, Coop?
Let's do it.
160 people watching live. Continue to hit that thumbs up icon, like the video when the moves happen. Approaching the deadline and just after it, because we know that's inevitable. We'll, of course, talk about them. Shout out your favorite team. Let us know what squad you're going for. We have William repping the Reds, Leroy, Reds as well, Scott, Red Sox, Game Boy, Detroit Tigers. Nick, are the Mets going to be trading their players? Verlander, Scherzer gone. We'll see if Tommy Pham is next. Wrestling the Wilkinsons, Mets, Tigers, but they hurt me from Timberwolf. The Chai, my trash White Sox. Orioles from Yam Sam, Neil Cooper, Phillies. David Valerio, Yanks.
You just mentioned Tommy Pham. He has been traded to the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Diamondbacks. So another team in the NL hunt. They get a seasoned veteran who can really either start for them or come off the bench as a utility man. DTG Broads, Dodgers, Tyler, Cubs, Nate, Cardinals, Owen, Cards, Nick Rickman, Mets. Yeah, Tommy Pham to the D-backs. That according to Jeff Passan. So that's the most recent move.
Tommy Pham can really play either of the corner outfield positions.
Yeah, 268 average this year. He has 10 home runs. 348 on base percentage. 472 slugging. That's top 5 in his career. 820 OPS is also top 5 of his career. He's been in the league for a long time, since 2014.
I think he's most known for fighting Jock Peterson, though.
Probably. Yeah, some obviously big playoff series with St. Louis. I like how he played with the Tampa Bay Rays. He had 21 home runs in 2019. 2021, 15 jacks. Last year between Cincinnati and Boston, 17 home runs. Just a tough, gritty playoff type of player.
He's the kind of guy that you need. He doesn't need at bats every single day to produce. And he can just kind of sit in the lineup. He can play any sort of role.
Yeah.
Good get for the Diamondbacks.
Sam Jordan, so they're going to lose Ohtani for nothing? Pretty much.
Yeah, they'll get it.
Unless they re-sign him, which I find that unlikely.
They'll get a compensatory pick for him if he leaves. But I highly doubt the Angels will be able to retain Ohtani. When you talk about the contract that Shohei Ohtani is going to get, I think it starts at $550 million and it goes up from there.
Yeah.
He's going to get the biggest contract in MLB history. It just depends on how much and how many years. Ramon Laureano, Teoscar Hernandez have to be options? Yes, for sure. Teoscar, there's been a lot of buzz about him today. No moves as of yet. Brian Harlow, Keuchel's going to walk from the Twins. Well, Keuchel stinks now, so that's fine.
Which Keuchel?
Dallas.
He signed with the Twins?
He pitched for the Rangers last year.
No way. He was trying to get a workout.
I think he had a minor league deal with the Twins, and he has an opt-out of either today or tomorrow.
There's no way he's pitching the bigs this year.
I don't believe he has.
He has not. 12.6 ERA last year with Texas.
I think it was one start, too.
Man, what a fastball since he was the Cy Young in 2015.
Wonder why that happened.
He's a Rangers fan, for those of you curious.
Harlow, according in AAA, a 1.13 ERA and 9 starts.
Really? Yeah, I know he was with, I think, the Driveline guys trying to get workouts and whatnot. I gotta look at this.
Keep shouting out your favorite team. The Orioles are close on Jack Flaherty.
Wow.
That's a big get for the Orioles,
That's
man.
a big get for the Orioles.
The Orioles getting probably the best remaining starting pitcher on the market in Jack Flaherty from the St. Louis Cardinals. Flaherty struggled sort of this season, but he heads to the AL East leading Baltimore Orioles.
Yeah, 6 starts. Keuchel allowed 4 earned runs, 28 hits in 32 innings, 28-12 strikeout to walk ratio. Numbers have been terrific. Likely done pitching in minor league games. Either the Twins or another big league team will want Keuchel pitching for them in the season's final months.
Interesting.
After his start, he said, quote, "I know my opt-out is on Tuesday, today, and the organization has been very transparent with me. A lot of teams that need help still are figuring out moves in the bigs. This is a place that I want to be, and I'd still like to be up with Minnesota. I have provided what I needed to do and shown myself what I'm still capable of doing." And I talked about him going to Driveline. The velo dipped, but from 2022, when it was at 87.2 average velo on the fastball, he got it up to 89. Never been a flamethrower. Sinker at 88.9, cutter 85.5, change 79.5, slider 78.5. So he was displaying some decent stuff.
Under 6 minutes to go. Jack Flaherty, the latest deal, as he heads from the St. Louis Cardinals to the Baltimore Orioles. We don't yet know what the Cardinals are receiving in the deal, or if a player like Carlson or O'Neill are also involved heading to Baltimore.
Dodgers talking to the Red Sox about Paxton. Still an outside chance for Erod. He would need to reverse decision on no trade. So still some chatter about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think he had a 10-team no-trade clause, and the Dodgers were on it.
Interesting. Why would you not want to go to the Dodgers?
Sounds like he just likes it in Detroit.
Great organization.
Owen said, I'm going to sub. Owen, I appreciate you, man.
Thank you, Owen. About 5 minutes to go until the Major League Baseball trade deadline here. Wow, Jack Flaherty to Baltimore. That's a good get.
Good get for sure.
Yeah, we were looking at his numbers earlier.
He's been okay this year.
Yeah, 4.43 ERA, which isn't bad. It's like one bad start every 2 or 3, really, if you average it out. 7-6 this year, 4.43 ERA, 4.25 last year, and only 8 games started. 109 and 2/3 innings pitched, and he has 106 strikeouts. So strikeouts to walks, not bad either. And his whip is 1.5, so not good. In 2019, it was under 1. That was when he finished 4th in Cy Young voting for the St. Louis Cardinals. 11-8, 2.75 ERA. Has never thrown more than 200 innings, but nowadays it's not like that always matters. Pitchers are getting the plug very early. But for him to go to the O's, we'll see what those trade details are. But Jack Flaherty to Baltimore and Tommy Pham to the D-backs. The 2 most recent trades that have happened here on deadline day.
I just wanted to hit this one again real quick with Austin Hedges going to the Rangers. My former roommate is an insider for Baseball Prospectus, and he had this to say. Austin Hedges is about to hit 150, steal 3 strikes a game, and call all the right pitches.
Steal 3 strikes per game. That can swing
Good framer.
something.
That can swing some, for
Good
sure.
framer. All right. Yeah, he's never been a good hitter. I mean, he has a career average that is extremely low, but he's known as a good defensive backstop, and that's what he's going to be for a team that needed another catcher.
3 minutes to go until the trade deadline. Be sure to subscribe. If you want more MLB content, we specialize in NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, college football. If you want it, we got it here at Chat Sports. So hit that sub button and stay tuned for more.
New York Yankees acquiring right-handed reliever Keenan Middleton from the Chicago White Sox. So there's the move for the Yankees.
There's the move for the Yanks. It's an extremely minor move, but the Yanks make one.
He has appeared in 39 games this year, all out of the pen. 3.96 ERA. It's definitely, with volume, one of the best years of his career. In 2017, while with the Angels, he appeared in 64 games through 58 1/3 innings. 3.86 ERA. This year, 36 1/3 with a 3.96. 47 Ks in that span. A whip of 1.3. Hits per 9, 8.2, so not great. The Phillies closing in on a deal with Pittsburgh to get Bailey Falter for Rodolfo Castro.
Who?
Bailey Falter. Phillies fans know the name.
1 minute to go until the trade deadline. We'll catch you up on all the latest happenings. We'll hit winners and losers here as well. They're a loser. What's this bull's name, Chase?
So Bailey Falter for Rodolfo Castro. Castro is going to go to Philadelphia. Bailey Falter goes to Pittsburgh. He's a utility infielder. Can play second base, shortstop, and third base. That was Josh Harrison getting DFA'd, I think, was the move that the Phillies had in mind here for Rodolfo Castro. .228 batting average this year.
5,
6 home runs.
3, 2, 1. No more trades. We're
no
done.
more trades until there's a trade that happens in a few minutes.
Exactly.
So is that really it?
We'll see. Some deals can still be announced.
Slow fax machine? Jack Flaherty to Baltimore has been finalized.
Is that it?
I guess we'll give it a few minutes here.
We wait and see the fallout here.
No moves coming in.
What we can assure you is that there won't be a major move.
We have the compensation for Jack Flaherty.
Okay, I'll update it.
Drew Rom and Cesar Prieto. I can give you the spelling there.
Please do. Dylan Cease, not traded. Yes.
Yeah, Dylan Cease, not traded.
Cesar Prieto.
Yes, Prieto.
Cool.
And then Drew Rom, ROM. Yep, and then Keenan Middleton to the Yankees. That was a move that happened as well. So some teams that we thought were going to be in the market for a big arm or a big bat did not end up making a move.
I'm surprised they hung on to Dylan Cease. I think that's interesting.
Yeah, I thought the Phillies were going to try to make a move for a right-handed bat, but they don't. They're going to count on Trey Turner and Castellanos to get it together.
The Eduardo Rodriquez thing blows my mind.
Yeah. Wants to stay with Detroit. Yeah, so Eduardo Rodriquez invoked his no-trade clause with the Dodgers, citing a desire to remain closer to family on the East Coast.
All right.
So that's it. What are we doing? Winners and losers?
Yeah.
Is that our only cup?
Yep.
Cool. What should we do for that?
I can pop up who I have, and you can tell me. I have those as winners,
Cool.
and I have these as losers.
I dig it. Take the Orioles out. Jack Flaherty.
They did make a move now.
Put the Philadelphia Phillies on there.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, so we're about to do our Major League Baseball trade deadline winners and losers. Take a look at who won and who lost the day. Of course, we'll also factor in some of the moves that happened in the days leading up to the deadline as well. Graphically, do we have trades for those teams and who they picked up? Or
Yep, we have the trades and the team cards.
all right. Jack Lauderay is a broken man, he said. The Red Sox did not do anything. All right. So the deadline is officially passed, and it looks as though this isn't going to be like the NBA trade deadline, where sometimes moves happen well after the fact. Rob Manfred has this buckled down tight, and no moves are going to happen. Now, I say that, and Bob Nightingale did say, there are usually about 5 to 10 trades that will come down after the deadline, but the White Sox say that Dylan Cease is staying put. They plan to contend in 2024, not rebuild. Nightingale also said plenty of trades will happen over the next 30 to 40 minutes. So I lied. There could be moves that happen.
You want to jump into this?
I guess. I can't imagine a monster trade is going to happen.
That's
right?
kind of what I think too. The Twins aren't making a move.
I imagine if a superstar player gets traded, that would have already happened.
I would agree.
So, all right, let's do some Major League Baseball trade deadline winners and losers. Who won? Who lost? It's all about to come your way live here on Chat Sports. Thanks to everybody who's been here with us all throughout the day. This list put together by myself and Coop, and we're going to break it down because there's a lot of thoughts on what transpired here today. So, Coop, you ready to rock? All right, let's do it. So the Major League Baseball trade deadline has come and gone, and coming up on today's show, who won the Major League Baseball trade deadline and who lost it as part of our winners and losers segment. It wasn't really an active MLB trade deadline a couple of weeks ago. There were some thoughts. There was some buzz behind maybe Shohei Ohtani getting traded, as well as Juan Soto. But the biggest name really to get dealt, Justin Verlander on deadline day. And because of that, the Houston Astros kick off our deadline winners. Because I think what Houston really needed here going into the deadline, they needed to bulk up that starting rotation. And this is a team that has been really hot over the last couple of weeks. Offensively, they've really started to get it together. Yordan Alvarez and as well as Jose Altuve are back in that lineup, and now they pick up a starter in Justin Verlander who can really help them out, and they didn't have to give up a lot in order to get him. Drew Gilbert as well as Ryan Clifford going to the Mets, 2 prospects going to New York for a New York team that just decided to sell, and it's been an absolute disaster for Steve Cohen and the crew. Verlander this year, he's been excellent outside of a choppy May. He missed all of April because of injury, but he's rebounded since then. A 3.15 ERA, a whip north of 1, almost 8 strikeouts per 9, but you already know, going back to Houston, he's going to be reinvigorated. That spin rate is going to go up because they do such a great job in pinpointing why pitchers have struggled, and he's going to bolster up a rotation where the Astros certainly needed it. Deadline winner number 2, the Texas Rangers. And I think you can go all the way back to them acquiring Aroldis Chapman. That bullpen up to that point had been a disaster, and that bullpen is still somewhat of a weak link, but they've really fortified a lot of their weaknesses. The Jordan Montgomery trade gives them another arm. They also get Chris Stratton in this trade with the St. Louis Cardinals, and I don't really think that Texas really had to give up all that much, and we'll see what happens with Max Scherzer here. Strikeouts are down. Velo is down. Spin rate down. Home runs given up has gone way up. But can he be a pitcher who changes scenery and is able to go to the Rangers in the thick of a playoff race, as that AL West is going to be fascinating coming down the stretch against a team like the Houston Astros, and get a little bit of that velo back because of the adrenaline going to be pumping. And then they get another catcher on that team in Austin Hedges. He is not going to bring any pop or a lot of offensive skill to that lineup offensively for Texas, but a good backup catcher who's a good framer. He's going to save runs. He's going to turn some balls into strikes, which can change the course of a ball game. Want to get to the Chicago Cubs here as well, because I think the Cubs are another deadline winner just for the sole fact that they didn't sell. And anytime the Cubs are in the mix going into August, September, October, it's just better for baseball. The Candelario trade was a really good one. He leads all NL third basemen this year in OPS. He can also hit for power. He can play both corner infield spots, third base, first base. I like that move for Chicago. I also like the fact that they didn't trade away Marcus Stroman. I know that he was bad on Monday night in that pivotal game against the Cincinnati Reds, and they didn't trade away Cody Bellinger, who's been a revelation for Chicago this year. And his July, he has been straight up white hot. They figured to be in the mix for an NL wildcard spot. Lastly, deadline winner, Los Angeles Angels. Art Moreno, he doesn't give up Shohei Ohtani. Is Ohtani going to be with this team after this year? Who knows? And if he does leave and the Angels get nothing back for the unicorn that is Ohtani, who's incredibly unique, can impact the game on the bump and in that batter's box, an extremely special talent, that's awful. But they have gone all in on trying to convince him to stay and to try to chase a playoff spot and have a winning season for the first time in several years. Made a couple of moves here. Randall Grichuk, a good outfielder, is having a really good season. C.J. Cron as well. The Lucas Giolito acquisition in that trade with the Chicago White Sox certainly bolsters that rotation. Couple of areas that they needed to address. Angels able to do that. So with that, let's tee up your biggest trade deadline winner. Who is it? Let us know here on the show. Get that comment section popping. And as you venture down to the comment section, make sure you subscribe to us here on Chat Sports. We are live for Major League Baseball trade deadline day. We talk NFL, college football, Major League Baseball, a whole lot more. YouTube.com/chatsportstv. Subscribe today. Deadline losers, the New York Mets. And Mets fans are used to this because they've been losers all year. They have not been good, and they've been disastrous. And after the Major League Baseball trade deadline, after losing Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander, that rotation is going to be bad. And Steve Cohen invested a lot of money into this baseball team. They had the highest payroll in Major League Baseball. They're not even going to have a playoff showing to show for it. The series loss to the San Diego Padres last year was bad, considering how good the Mets were in 2022. Never got it together here in 2023. They trade away Scherzer. They trade away Verlander. Two pitches that they invested a lot of money in. The return on investment, the ROI for Scherzer, not good. 9.44 ERA this year. For Verlander, they're going to pay him this year and next year as part of that trade to Houston. Seattle Mariners, another deadline loser because they're in the mix for the AL wildcard, even though that AL East is stacked, yet they decided to sell instead of buy. And in the AL West, this division is open. We have 2 months left in the regular season, and the Mariners, only 5 games back, 55-51. They're counting now on that roster as currently constituted to allow them to propel up the playoff standings. And then in the AL wildcard race, it's of course going to be difficult for Seattle to make any headway here, but in the division, they certainly do have an opportunity to make the playoffs here. A year after they were a surprise team last year, they decide to really not do anything at the deadline. Chicago White Sox, they decided to not sell, or they decided to sell, kind of, but not, like they're kind of on both sides of the spectrum, I guess I should say. They traded away Edgar Cuero as well as Kai Bush, or they got those players back, from the Angels. They traded away Lucas Giolito and Reynaldo Lopez. They elected to not trade some of their marquee players like Dylan Cease, and they want to try to contend in 2024. But I thought it would have been smart for them to try to get some prospects back to not necessarily rebuild, but retool to a certain degree. New York Yankees only made one significant move to bolster up that bullpen, and that was really it. I thought they needed another bat in that lineup, and they don't get another bat in that lineup. Instead, they get a bullpen arm and Keenan Middleton, who's just like a middle-of-the-road type of arm. And then lastly, Philadelphia Phillies. I don't really like what the Phillies did. Dave Dombrowski is usually really, really aggressive. The Michael Lorenzen acquisition is a good one for Philadelphia. They're going to go with a 6-man rotation over the next couple of weeks. Lorenzen, career high in strikeouts, ERA in the mid-3s. He's a back end of the rotation type. The Phillies certainly need that. Christopher Sanchez has allowed them to be competitive in a lot of games, but they just needed another arm in there that can allow Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola to rest up a little bit because they did get fatigued when the World Series came around. But other than that, they needed another right-handed bat. They didn't address that, and I was a little bit disappointed by the lack of moves for Philadelphia. So we asked you who your biggest trade deadline winner is. Who is your biggest trade deadline loser? Let us know down in the comment section. And like this video if you love talking baseball. We don't really get to talk Major League Baseball often here at Chat Sports, but today to have that opportunity was certainly a fun opportunity to do just that. Thanks to everybody who tuned into our live coverage, and the more people who support our videos like this, the more opportunities we have to talk some seams. All right, Jack Lauderay saying the Red Sox, Morgan Fay, Toronto Blue Jays, please bring home Teo, Harlan. This last-minute deals, big players. Nick Rickman, Mets will try to win and contend in 2025. Clayton, Dodgers should have made a play for Dylan Cease. Yeah, instead he stays. All right.
Well, Mr. Senior?
I think that's it, right?
I think that's it.
Josh Bell. Angels acquired Dominic Leone. Marlins did acquire Josh Bell. Guardians received Gene Segura. But again, periphery moves for these teams. All right. So I think that does it for our trade deadline coverage here.
Yes, sir.
Thanks to everybody who watched today. It was a blast. Usually we talk NFL on a day like this. Today? What?
Yeah, Josh Bell.
Gene Segura?
Josh Bell. Oh. I've heard of him.
Oh, okay. Marlins got Ryan Weathers?
Not even Ken Rosenthal knows because his last two tweets have been deleted.
Ryan Weathers to the Marlins? Yeah, he's going to help them with that. Let's see. He's going to help the Marlins with that 6.25 ERA.
Your Mets made a couple moves, Rolly.
Owen J said hi. You're saying hi?
Hi.
And we're about to say bye.
Bye.
Major League Baseball trade deadline coverage in the books here at Chat Sports. Thanks to everybody who tuned in. For Coop, I'm Chase. We'll catch you next time.